Good morning. How are you?
Good. How are you, Deborah LeeAnn?
I am uh feeling all of it. The full moon woke me up at 3:30 in the morning, shining brightly right in over our bed like a spotlight. And I have this love-hate with that because she wakes me up and I'm like,
Hmm.
but it's okay. And we're so close to the equinox. I mean, what is it? We're 12 hours and 12 minutes daylight right now.
Yeah.
So tell me, who are we? What aspect of this light being we call the ecstatic leader are we going to be discussing today?
We're going to be talking about her purpose, and that's like anchored into the earth. So when you think about purpose, it's the light being anchored into the earth. And so with the ecstatic leader, we're going to be talking about what is called the 10th gene key. And we're talking about gene keys written by Richard Rudd. And the 10th gene key is specifically moving from self-obsession, the shadow of self-obsession. This is the different states of consciousness, to being through the gift of naturalness. So just think of naturalness and being, because this is a light being and being anchored on this planet. So they're not working in a lot of shadow stuff. They're coming in with their light and really embodying the gift of naturalness and being. Now, you ask, what does that mean? I'm going to ask you because Deborah, she has this in common with this light being, and tell us a little bit about what it's like to be living in that life of naturalness. What essence do you feel?
Uh Magic. It's so interesting. We were talking before we started the recording that for the first 40 years of my life, I lived very much from this place until I got into a much more spiritually conscious, which is where he says we get a little overly self obsessed. The more aware I became of who I am and my spiritual path and all of that, that's when I started like playing around in trying to control things versus just allowing things. And I had a magical life. I mean, just traveled all over and had the fairy tale romances, and then everything was like, never had to look for a job, was always invited to my next uh, adventure career wise. It was me being me without realizing I was trying to be me. And that's the difference is now when I'm trying to be authentically me, it falls flat. So that's the best word I can say is it's almost like an essence of that I'm when I'm carried by it, I'm light and life is easy and magical. And when I am trying to make it happen, I'm miserable. I hope that makes some sense to people.
Yeah. Um, I love when he says in his 64 ways, easy is right.
Which makes it sound so, and I think that's where my ego gets confused because it wants to do something. Like I have to work for this, right? I have to earn whatever. And that is exactly the opposite of this, which is so funny. And it's kind of counterculture because our culture is very much that you work and you earn and you
Yeah.
sacrifice and you strive, right? And I'm just like, and that whole hustle business thing just has never felt good to my system. Um, but anyway, yeah.
Let's just anchor that energy in of easiness and flow, the feminine flow. Um,
And
this is
being
all
carried. Yeah, that receptivity thing is I don't have to do it. I don't have to do it. It just is. and it is done.
Yeah. This to me, it's in the center of the heart. And so this understanding or feeling is when we recognize our nature as love. That is our natural state.
I know. But how come we leave it so often? Because it's too good? Because it feels, I don't know. I understand that's why we have light beings to remind us, to have something that we can um, return to be like the lighthouse that beacons us back home um, when we forget.
And show me a mudra that helps people anchor that into their body.
For being, you can take your palms and you bring them together, and it doesn't matter which way. But when you do this, there's like a hollow in the center of your palms, and that is the gift of being human. And back in the days before the pandemic, we used to shake hands, and that was like, I'm gifting me and receiving you. So it's like this, it was a beautiful interaction of exchange. Or I think of couples holding hands. So when you do that, feeling that emptiness that's in the hollow of your palms and breathing into that allows you to just drop into that spaciousness. It's a beautiful thing.
Thank you for that.
Mm.
And playing in that spaciousness of just being, we are this week in the pulse of the 6, and the Gene Key 6 is all about moving from conflict to peace through diplomacy. And so having that naturalness with peace or diplomacy,
with the diplomacy, mm-hmm.
and beingness with peace, just feeling into that essence, those words, just feeling into that essence of that being who we are.
And allowing the diplomacy, I find fascinating, because I always think of my first hearing of that word had to do with like the State Department, relationships with other countries and all of that. And it is about greeting difference with an openness that there's space for them and me to be in that same space, and that there's no room for conflict. We're coming into it without the fear of playing some kind of game so that we don't have to go to war. I mean, it's not that. It's more about
an understanding.
Yeah, and it allows it's the same as what we are requiring to be now in dialogue with others, in communication, is, can we stay open, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that we can fully receive the other person. We can hear them, we understand where they're coming from, and not take the bait to turn it into conflict. Can we listen to them and then find the common ground that brings us together? So, and peace, and this is something that I love, that he said we can do at any time, anywhere, and it's true. I was thinking, when I get in the middle of something that feels awkward, I can do this and nobody will know the difference, because I always have my hand on my heart. But taking our right hand and putting it on our heart, and our left hand on top. And it's that holding of the being and the doing within. It's the intellect and the intuition. It's the collapsing of those dualities and creating space for the peace, the shared common space that we all live in.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, I love that. And I love all that, the light beings here instituting peace. There are many peace poles around the globe. And I know that there's lots of people traveling and instituting peace in their beingness and anchoring that in. So having this energy of naturalness and the light being of being in diplomacy and being in peace and harmony,
Yeah,
feels really good this week.
it does. And I was just thinking, we have friends who I don't know if that's why they're in Japan right now. Are they
Yeah.
working peaceful? Yeah, saw
Mm-hmm.
that. What I was wondering is how can we embody more and more of this archetype of the ecstatic leader within us? Because this is what we're here to do. Oh, and a thought that I wanted to share. One of the things I heard yesterday in listening to the Seven Sacred Seals, which is another deep dive I'd love to do with you someday when we can get to that space. But on the third sacred seal, which is about the opening of universal love across all of humanity, so that we can eliminate shame out of our
Yeah.
consciousness. He was talking about calling upon the different stars, and he showed an example, an image on the screen of the seven stars, and he said, if you think about it, light doesn't travel. We have it in our mind, because our minds are linear, that we have to create time and space to measure, or with our linear brain to understand how far away something is or whatever. But light doesn't travel, it just is. So those stars are inside us. Those light beings are inside us. And when I felt that, it like was like some kind of a, I don't know, epiphany or whatever. But it was so interesting to me because I felt like I was invoked with that light.
Mm.
And I want to play with that. Oh, should we introduce having Trish come for the integration of this? Yeah, why don't you?
So this coming week, we will have an integration week where the founder and creator of the School of Light Collective, Patricia Wald Hopkins, will be joining us, and we will be talking about the ecstatic leader and all of her expression of how she is here showing up and how we are her.
Yeah. And the more that we allow and accept and embrace those aspects within us, it we are anchoring and rate. And I love this because there was another way I saw radiance show up. The way he defined it is when we radiate that, you can see it through our eyes, you can hear it through our words. It's not what we say, it's just in the tone of our voice, it's in the energy of our being. We're radiating this energy because we're anchoring it, which is what the School of Light Collective is doing. Anchoring this light energy here on earth to support humanity at this time.
Yeah.
So, oof, that makes me excited. And at the end of that integration week, we will have available for you to purchase your own activation, healing, and integration package so that you can do your own deeper work with these concepts and energies. And yeah, more on that next week. So, anything else to close on?
Oh, let's just hold our hands on our heart. Take a nice easy breath.
What would be a sound? Is there a tone?
Such heart space.
That feels natural
Mm-hmm.
and peaceful.
Yeah. So we'll see you next time.
Thanks so much for being here.